Mantras of our Divine Mother. Our Divine Mother says, do not take the sorrows of life for what they seem to be. They are in truth a way for greater achievements. Always with love and blessing, says our Divine Mother. Words of our Divine Mother from the book The Mother by Sri Aurobindo with Mother's comments. Page 86. Question. Before undertaking any action, sweet mother, before undertaking any action, one tries to know whether the impulse comes from the mother or not, but generally one doesn't have enough discernment to know it, and yet one acts. Can one know from the result of the action whether it came from the mother or not? For this, our Divine Mother says, one does not have the discernment because one does not care to have it. Listen, I don't think there is a single instance in which one doesn't find within oneself something very clear, but you must sincerely want to know. We always come back to the same thing. You must sincerely want it. The first condition, says our Divine Mother, the first condition is not to begin thinking about the subject and building all sorts of ideas, opposing ideas, possibilities, and entering into a formidable mental activity. First of all, you must put the problem as though you were putting it to someone else. Then keep silent, remain like that, immobile. And then, after a little while, you will see that at least 3 different things may happen, sometimes more. Take the case of an intellectual, one who acts in accordance with the indications of his head. He has put the problem and he waits. Well, if he is indeed attentive, he will notice that there is in the chronological order is not absolute. It may come in a different order. At first, what is most prominent in an intellectual? A certain idea. If I do that in this way, it will be all right. It must be like that. That is to say, a mental construction. A second thing, which is a kind of an impulse, that will have to be done. That is good. It must be done. Then a third, which does not make any noise at all, does not try to impose itself on others, but has the tranquility of a certitude, not very active, not giving a shock, not pushing to action, but something that knows and is very quiet, very still. This will not contradict the others, will not come and say, no, that's wrong. It says simply, see, it is like this, that's all. And then it does not insist. Our Divine Mother says, the majority of men are not silent enough or attentive enough to be aware of it, for it makes no noise. But I assure you, it is there in everybody. And if one truly is sincere, and if one is truly sincere and succeeds in being truly quiet, one will become aware of it. The thinking part begins to argue, but after all, this thing will have this consequence, and that thing will have that consequence, and if one does this and that, and it's the noise, and begins again. The other, that's the vital, will say, yes, it must be done like that, it must be done, you don't understand, it must be, it is indispensable. There, then you will know. And according to your nature, you will choose either the vital impulse or the mental leading. But very seldom do you say quite calmly, good, it is this I am going to do. whatever happens, and even if you don't like it very much, but it is always there. I am sure, says our Divine Mother, I am sure that it is there even in the murderer before he kills. You understand? But his outer being makes such a lot of noise that it never even occurs to him to listen. But it is always there. In every circumstance, there is in the depth of every being just this little one. One cannot call it voice, for it makes no sound. This little indication of the divine grace, and sometimes to obey it requires a tremendous effort, for all the rest of the being opposes it violently, one part with the conviction that what it thinks is true, another with all the power and the strength of its desire. But don't tell me that one cannot know, for that is not true. One can know, but one does not always know what is necessary, and sometimes, if one wants or one knows what is to be done, well, one finds some excuse or other for not doing it. One tells oneself, oh, I am not so sure after all of this inner indication. It does not assert itself with sufficient force for me to trust it. But if you were quite indifferent, that is, if you had no desire, either mental or vital or physical desire, you should know with certainty that this is that which must be done and nothing else. Our Divine Mother says what comes and gets in the way is preferences and desires. Each day one may have hundreds and hundreds of examples. When people begin to say, truly, I don't know what to do, it always means that they have a preference. But as here in the ashram, they know there is something else, and as at times they have been a little attentive, they have a vague sensation that it is not quite that. It is not quite that. I don't feel quite ease at that. Besides, you were saying a while ago that it is the result which gives you the indication. It has even been said that it has been written in books that one judges the divine will by the results. And all that succeeds has been willed by the divine. All that doesn't well, he has not willed it. This is yet again one of the stupidities big as a mountain. It is a mental simplification of the problem which is quite comic. That's not it. If one can have an indication in proportion to one's sincerity, if one can have an indication in proportion to one's sincerity, it is uneasiness, a little uneasiness, not a great uneasiness, just a little uneasiness. Here, you have another means, quite simple. I don't know why you do not use it, because it is quite element. You imagine I am in front of you and then ask yourself, would I do this before mother without difficulty, without any effort, without something holding me back? That will never deceive you. If you are sincere, you will know immediately, and then you won't stop, says our Divine Mother. Our Divine Mother says, if you are sincere, you will know immediately. That would stop many people on the verge of folly, says our Divine Mother. Next, a child says, Sweet Mother, your only object in action shall be to serve, to receive, to fulfill, to become a manifesting instrument of the divine Shakti in her works. For this, our Divine Mother says, when you act, your only object is to serve, That is, instead of acting for your personal good, you act with the feeling of serving, of receiving the divine force, not from outside. You must not at all believe in that, but from within you, of opening yourself to the divine force which will use you for its action and of fulfilling what does that force wants you to fulfill. There is no place there for egoism. It is not a matter of giving one thing and receiving another in exchange. It is not that. It is not a question of receiving it from outside. There are disciplines which makes it a rule. We don't like rules for they are always arbitrary and artificial. That one should receive absolutely nothing from anybody except the divine or the guru who represents the divine. Some people would not receive even a fruit from anybody because it does not come from the Guru. That is an exaggeration. That depends on circumstances, on conditions, and it also depends very much on the attitude one takes. It depends on many things. It would take a very long time to explain, but there is one thing you must learn: never to rely on anyone or anything, whatever, except the divine. For if you lean upon someone for support, that support will break. Our Divine Mother says, if you lean upon anyone or someone for support, that support will break. You may be sure of that. For the minute you start doing yoga, I always speak of those who do yoga. I do not speak about ordinary life. For those who do yoga, to depend upon someone else is like wanting to transform that person into the representative of the divine force. Now you may be sure there is not one in 100 millions who can carry the weight. He will break immediately. So never take the attitude of hoping for support, help, comfort from anyone except the divine. That is absolute. I have never not come across met anyone who tried to cling to something to find the support. Someone doing yoga or who has been put into touch with yoga and who was not deceived. It breaks, it stops, one loses one's support. Then one says life is difficult. It is not difficult, but one must know what one is doing. Never seek a support elsewhere than the divine. Never seek satisfaction elsewhere than in the divine. Never seek the satisfaction of your needs in anyone else except the divine. Never for anything at all. All your needs, says our Divine Mother, all your needs can be satisfied only by the divine. All your weaknesses can be borne and healed only by the divine. He alone is capable of giving you what you need in everything, always. And if you try to find any satisfaction or support or help or joy, or heaven knows what, in anyone else or in anything else, you will always fall on your nose one day, and that always hurts. Sometimes even hurts very much, says our Divine Mother. These are the words of our Divine Mother from the book The Mother, with comments by our Lord Sri Aurobindo, with comments by our Divine Mother.
The waking up of nature, her steps and wideness turn to her its limitless eyes, and scattered on sealed depths her luminous smile kindled